Merry Christmas, America. What a different country we were back in the day of Charlie Brown's debut with Peanuts on television. Now we have calls for UN troops in Chicago, and we have reporters, talk show hosts, station managers like Matt Dubiel with his news station, News and Talk 1530 WCKG, and, of course, the FM 102.3. And we just announced we're going to be moving to Trump Tower in a few weeks, covering all of Chicago with the FM, not just like the AM covering all of Chicago. We've been on the station, I don't know, 8 years or so, got a lot of listeners, and the feed got cut. And, of course, we have congressional hearings where they say, oh, we censored Alex at lunch. The heads of Facebook, Twitter, and Google are in there saying, we at lunch we saw that InfoWars was #1, and we knocked it down. See who they're obsessed with? Because we know when Loretta Lynch says, we're going to federalize the police and put them under UN control, Trump is undoing all of this. But the problem is Obama, in his era, they put in internet kill switches into all the telecommunications. In fact, pull it up. Obama's internet kill switch in all radio, TV, broadcast internet. Go ahead and type it in. You'll have articles from us 6 years ago when they did it. Obama's kill switch passes, and it's in all telecommunications. And then Obama, in the last Defense Authorization Act, came in and set the whole thing up. Was I right? I said 6 years ago. Okay, I'm sorry. It was 7 years ago. See that memory? June 26, 2010. New bill gives Obama kill switch to shut down the internet, and it passed. So it's in the new Telecommunications Act. They passed another version last year. Take over the internet. It doesn't mean that we won't have a free internet in the future. It doesn't mean the telecoms aren't going to try to end net neutrality. They were ending it with what Obama called net neutrality. All this new censorship's here, as Ajay Pai said, and now the EAS system, his engineer tells him, just cut off the feed. Roger Stone's here to talk about this, Matt Dubiel. But, I mean, Roger, I'm going to find out in a moment, has the engineer been able to fix it? You got to, I guess, unplug the EAS. That's what's doing it, obviously, and go right back to the satellite. That's their fault. The EAS just broke when we talked about Chicago and the UN troops because they don't want anybody there to talk about it. They don't want anybody there to build opposition. They want to set the precedent. What do you make of this, Roger Stone?
You know, Obama's people really thought through these things. So net neutrality, first of all, their policies not in any way reflect net neutrality, but they grab the slogan. Here's the point. It's pretty simple. The current net neutrality rules only regulate the ISP providers, Verizon, AT&T, Comcast.
It gave monopoly power to the big, quote, liberal telecoms.
But the content providers are completely unregulated. Facebook, Twitter, Google, Amazon, YouTube. They can defame you. They can censor you. They can destroy you.
Oh, I forgot. That was in Obama's bill, is that they're allowed to censor us and defame us. They were given immunity. So, again, they can engage in any type of telecommunications they want. All the old ones can't.
Exactly. And then, in this case, you're absolutely right. The follow-through in the final defense appropriation around Christmas of the last year of Obama's presidency sets up a national censorship board and appropriates the funds to have all these left-wing groups go out and be the arbiters of what's fake news.
With George Soros, ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center, admittedly, Google announced this publicly, running it and censoring us in live time. So going back to Matt Dubiel, very well broken down, Roger. Again, this is the stay-behind networks. Just like Bloomberg reported, the bureaucrats are all just ignoring Trump. It's the same thing. And clearly, as you said, they just did a software load in there that if we talk about the UN and Chicago, they knew this was coming, cut me off. Has your engineer been able to get us back on air?
We got on immediately. As soon as you stopped talking about Chicago specifically, the feed was back on, and it was almost as if it was faded up. It's the oddest thing I've ever experienced. I've been in this business for 20 years.
Hold on, you said it sounded like it was faded up, just kind of...
Yes.
Ooh, that wouldn't be software. That means they're doing it in live time.
Well, it also means it's a test. It's a dry run. It's just the same as the disgruntled employee who turned the president's Twitter feed off for 11 minutes. There was no disgruntled employee. That's a dry run for what is about to come. I suspect that this is a dry run.
Here's why I think it's really, really important. It's because it's not just this rogue commissioner in Cook County calling for this. The vehicles have already been trained in here. I've seen them. I don't know where they put them, but when I pull, it's all, anybody who knows how to look up transport records can look up whatever trains were coming into Chicago on August 16th about 1:30 to 2 a.m. And I know this because I was at an event at the Palmer House in downtown Chicago. After I pulled over to take pictures, Alex, I was followed onto the highway, and I was arrested. Followed and arrested. And the rest, I can't talk. I'm not going to.
Wow, that's why you told me you didn't want to get into all this. You said I guess you're just going to say it all now. Wow.
I didn't. Yes, I would. And there's even more to it. I mean,
well, we need everybody to find the UN. We need Chicago police that are patriots. Anybody that says enough is enough, show tips at Infowars.com. Tell us where the UN base is. And, of course, the media will be, Jones claims there's a UN base. Here they are, saying they're going to try to bring them in with the UN. Here's Loretta Lynch when she was still in saying they were going to do it. This is their globalist coup d'etat. Just like the EU army says, if Spain or Italy or anybody tries to pull out, they will march an EU army in.
Which is why Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, who was only a member under Obama, said that the current net neutrality rules have no foundation in rationale. They were passed because Obama ordered it. He simply ordered it.
And it is the reign of censorship that you've been banned on Twitter. It's not like we're just saying this.
Alex, I figured this out. I was merely banned 60 days before everybody else.
They announced at the end of this month it's happening.
And therefore, everybody else will be following me.
They said the date's what, the 28th, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, they're testing. That's why I said that. That's why they all keep saying, your high-level sources keep saying the Congress people. We've been told Trump's gone by the end of December. They're getting ready to make their move.
There's no question. They think that they can engineer the coup d'etat one way or another. As the public credibility of Mueller continues to disintegrate, the likelihood that he can pull off some process-related charge against the president is fading, which is why they'll then move to the 25th Amendment strategy, as you and I have discussed on this show now for several months. They call us conspiracy theorists. In a couple months, they will call us sages because this is going down. Senator Ben Sass is in on it. Senator Robert Corker's in on it. Jeb Bush is in on it.
This is a literal technocratic, technocracy coup. They admit it. I've got stacks where the New York Times says our resist movement will take over in the next few months. In fact, Kit Daniels brought me the article. I was going to cover it till Matt got on. It's on newswars.com where the New York Times says our resist movement and our resistance movement will take you down. We are unstoppable. I mean, they are moving, ladies and gentlemen. They mean business. This is simply insane.
Well, in all honesty, it's why I tell everybody that I deal with to go to the InfoWars store site. We need a war chest to fight this.
That was my next thing. Matt, stay there. I want you to both stay there for one more segment. Here it is. New York Times clings to hope of leftist resistance will bring down Trump. And the author chortles in here and says, you can't stop us. Trump's done more than George Soros, Bernie Sanders, and Saul Alinsky. We're taking over, and we're launching our takeover. And then they've got full-page ads by Antifa saying they're going to have a violent overthrow. And then when we point it out, they say it doesn't exist. They are getting ready to make their move. Guaranteed. And since you mentioned it, Roger, everybody needs to expose the move to do this. Everybody needs to fight. And all the radio stations need to know. The FCC's got good people running it, but the software has been hacked by the Democratic Party and Soros. So the EAS is for nuclear attacks or whatever, not for when they cut you off and put Obama on or Hillary or whatever. That you hear Trump's being removed, he's gone. Same thing happened in Germany. And, of course, that was a good thing they were doing against Hitler. But here they're going to use that system where they took over the radio and with their program, with people they had in place. With Operation Valkyrie. They're planning an Operation Valkyrie against Trump. So it's your duty, obviously, at that point. You didn't hear the president or Ajit Pai or anybody say do that. And that'd be bad if they said it to cut off feeds. You just simply unplug it and put the feed back in. They're going to hit our satellites, you name it. We've set up emergency phone banks for the stations. I haven't really announced all this yet because it was a little bit presumptive. But I'm going to have to launch next week emergency operations to keep us afloat using other means. People should also record these shows in case you're completely shut off. You'll still be able to transmit in your area, and this will be an evergreen transmission.
But let's recognize they have unlimited funding in tax dollars. We have only what our
yes, and that's why free shipping. And by the way, they corrected me. Anywhere in the 50 states, you can still order today and get it before Christmas. But they just said it might be tough because the shipping department's doing a great job. But you need to order today. Free shipping store-wide. The high-quality toothpaste, the nutraceuticals, the Brain Force, 50% off, 67% off colloidal silver. Buy some high-quality products, T-shirts, you name it. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Our best deals ever. A lot of these items are going to be sold out for months because we're just blasting it all out to get funding, to dig in and hunker down for the Second American Defense of the Republic. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2, Matt Dubiel, Roger Stone, and myself. And Roger Stone riding shotgun. You know, I really should get hysterical about this because Matt Dubiel had to go. He's got an emergency at the station. 1530. We've been on it for 8 years. He broke big news at the riots where the Democrats came to attack the Trump rally, shot the footage outside of the cops being attacked, reported it all, told us that he was told by locals that they'd been paid to come and pose as Bernie Sanders supporters. That later came out in the WikiLeaks. He's a great source and got arrested videotaping the UN vehicles coming in August. That's why I remember the exact time. Everything pulled down into it at 1:30 at night, driving home from an event, and got arrested. He just had to go. And I've never seen him freaked out in the year. Family man, got a bunch of kids like I do. I know his wife. And you were pointing out, talk radio is the thorn in the globalist side because when they have a takeover, they've got to have one message. They can't have a bunch of other messages.
No, and they tried desperately to develop progressive talk radio, and it just never took off. You can't name a truly influential progressive talk radio host where it's been a lifeblood for the liberty movement. That's why they have to shut it down.
And you see the open censorship against us, openly calling to shut us down, openly calling to shut off the president's Twitter. And they did that test, and then CNN says, oh, he's a hero for doing it. Roger, I think clearly they're planning to make their move in December, but now Mueller's moved it back a year or is talking about it. Is that a foil to make Trump feel confident? Or
what I think is happening here is that Mueller is so under siege, the credibility of his investigation is listing, at the seams, and therefore they're counting on the Democrats winning the House in 2018. Mueller produces his report.
They relaunch it then.
Right. He doesn't produce an indictment. He produces a report finding that the president obstructed justice or perjured himself, and then it's used as the rationale for an impeachment.
And I think we forget what happened the year before when his whole thing was blown wide open with all the people openly working together to lie about Russia.
So, and now remember, he only would be indicted by a majority vote of the House. The president would have to be convicted in the Senate, but the Senate is razor thin. And we can't tell what the future of the Senate is.
And that's why they're on a rampage to steal these states now. They're saying in the New York Times, they're going to impeach Trump. They're going to take the House. That's why all conservatives and libertarians can't just go to sleep and think, oh, look, the economy's coming back. Oh, look, the border's getting more controlled. Oh, look, political correctness is in trouble. They don't care. This is a vicious, hateful group, filled with George Soros, Antifa, Saul Alinsky, scum.
Well, look, their entire takedown of Trump has various aspects. There's the political establishment aspect, Mueller, Comey, McConnell, the leadership of the House and the Senate. They've got their street thugs paid for by Soros. That's Antifa. These are different elements of a national strategy.
They're just cutouts. They're like SA, street thugs versus SS.
Exactly.
Again, Roger Stone's our guest. We're going to break here in a moment, and we are going to come back. You're going to ride shotgun with us. We have Mr. Hagmann joining us, and he was the first guy to break months and months before they even announced their Day of Rage, November 5th, and then all these new ones, that they had PIs and people inside the Antifa meetings, and that they were planning all of this violence. But again, this is the AstroTurf to make it look like, oh, look, there's a national crisis. And now they're in the New York Times saying a national crisis is coming. It's Trump's fault, and he's got to be removed. So that just gives them the political cover. I tell you, this fight is so close. Again, Doug Hagmann's going to be joining us. Joel Skousen's coming up. Andrew Torba of Gab openly being banned everywhere. Google's calling for Gab to be removed from the internet. Facebook wants it removed. They do not want any competition. This is a savage, criminal takeover. Be aware of it, America, because the battle for the Republic has really just begun. We will win, but only if you understand it's a long fight. Roger Stone's riding shotgun with me. Doug Hagmann of the Hagmann Report is going to be joining us with his great intelligence network and a law enforcement background. Roger, you asked me a great question during that short break. Go ahead and ask it again.
Yeah, what is the rationale for moving UN troops to the streets of Chicago? Is it because of the gun violence and the collapse of society? The president's right. Somebody is killed every 3 hours in Chicago today.
Well, that's how it works. They refuse the National Guard there. They create a place where they've taken the guns. The corrupt groups are shipping the drugs in. It's kind of a safe zone for criminals to operate. So you let it get as bad as possible, and then you call in the UN to do gun sweeps, and then that sets the precedent for the UN to go into Western countries and do what it's done all over the world and has always been a goal. And so you have Loretta Lynch last year with her Strong Cities initiative, demonizing police, saying we need the UN to codify local government and come in and oversee the police, basically with federal control backing the UN. So it sounds insane, sounded insane to me, but they actually called for it. And so what's happened is their old plans, even though Trump's in place, they don't care. They're going ahead with a plan they already had set up years ago. This is just like in the EU where they march in EU troops now unannounced. They go, what's this? Well, we're EU troops. We heard you want to leave. So it's the same thing. Our government has sold us out to multinationals. Trump's gone in, but he's only a beachhead. And then you read in Bloomberg, yeah, the bureaucrats are all ignoring him. They're all spying on him. They're all lying. You know, we're the resistance. We're going to remove him. We're going to kill him. I go, hey, they said they're going to kill him. And then they put out fake headlines in Media Matters. Jones says the FBI is going to kill him. I didn't say that. I said the globalists that say they're getting ready to kill him, Phil Mudd on CNN, the congressmen that have told you they're getting ready to take out Trump, that they've been told that, they're building this confidence game with their own people in government to hang on. We'll suppress the economy, and we'll get those bitter clinger guns, and we'll have control. Just hang on.
That's why you had Congressman Jackie Speier yesterday saying, the rumor is everywhere that Trump is going to fire Mueller. We're hearing it all over Capitol Hill. That's because they started the rumor. The rumor is meant to destabilize Trump. He came out immediately and said, no, I have no plans to do that. But
that's right. They say the cue to riot is when Trump fires him. Trump doesn't do it because the wheels have come off and it's proven fraud. Don't interrupt your enemy when they're destroying yourself, as you said. And so then they come in to have a simulation as if he did to then cover up the fact that they've been caught red-handed manufacturing.
I think that's exactly right.
Again, Roger Stone's riding shotgun with me. We have Mr. Hagmann joining us. I'm not going to go into his whole bio or all the different law enforcement groups that he trains with his group, but it's great to have him with us. Doug, give us the intel report from all your sources that are always way ahead of, it seems, everybody else.
Hi, Alex. Mr. Stone, good to be with you. Yeah, right now, here's what we're seeing. I've got investigators that have infiltrated the on-the-ground groups from San Francisco to New York City. We're seeing a lot of activity there, but more importantly, what we're seeing are the members of the permanent state, the shadow government, if you will, the permanent bureaucracy meeting on a weekly basis outside of Washington D.C., making plans on how to overthrow. Or I shouldn't say overthrow, how to obstruct the forward movement of Donald Trump's agenda. And in doing it, as part of that, we're also getting information about who's in the crosshairs. And I've heard your name come up. I've heard Mr. Stone's name come up. I've heard other big Breitbart members of Breitbart and other people come up as to what they plan on doing in terms of shutting off their communications and lifelines.
And
that's where we're at.
And now they're in the news again saying they're getting ready to make the push. But when we report on it, they say we're insane and it doesn't exist. What is the tactic there?
Well, it's look, if it doesn't happen right away when we say it's going to happen, or if it 4 years ago, 2013, I reported on this, and I reported on the structure, the infrastructure that was being put and being built to carry this out. And we had thought it was going to be, what we're seeing today was going to happen long before today. It didn't. But we're seeing the fruits of that labor back then happen today. And it's just if you can't, in today's world, if you can't see it, if it doesn't happen right away, if you say it's going to happen and a month or a week goes by and nothing happens, well, then you're a liar, or it's all hype, it's all hyperbole.
Exactly. Well, it's a classic thing. It's a military tactic from World War I, where they would, through bullhorns, say we're not attacking. We're not assaulting. As they were bayoneting people, they found with at least enough people, it creates hesitation so people don't go into battle mode, so we don't get ready. They just say nothing's happening while they announce to their own people, we're going to take over, we're going to kill, we're going to burn, we're going to slaughter, we're going to get everybody, we're going to lock up all the conservatives, we're going to, but then, oh, we're not doing that, you're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we need to be, at least in my view, and based on all of the information I've gotten from my investigative staff and the volunteers who were out there in the meetings or watching the meetings, is this. We have to be prepared, I think, for anything to go, I hate to use this phrase, but for things to go live, I suppose. But that's the only way I know how to describe it. For things to go from a hypothetical arrangement or something that we would think is, being planned for the future, that could happen at any time. And a lot of this is contingent, based on everything I've been told about the Mueller probe, how well this fares out. They're getting a lot of pushback internally. The GSA, of course, just turned over 13 devices and documents when in fact they had no legal basis to do so. We're seeing a lot of lawlessness take place within the Mueller, the Mueller investigation.
The Clinton penetration of the FBI, the Clinton criminal operation inside the FBI, that's what it is.
Exactly. So the more that's exposed, and this is my reasoned analysis, the more that is exposed, and the bigger, the longer and faster and harder we push against this, the more the bigger the pushback against us will be, against the mainstream media, against the alternative new media, honest media will be. And
exactly.
I think
that's why we see the censorship converging, the propaganda converging, and now that the Mueller thing is in trouble, they meant to launch it this December, as Congress and others told you, as they now admit, that's falling apart, but they still are so arrogant, even though every one of their other operations is blown up in their face, from stealing the election to you name it, they are still intending to go ahead with this, it looks like.
Well, and
yeah, of course.
And it's why they are so apoplectic about the new net neutrality rules, because it's rolling back one of their major initiatives to control that channel of communications. Trump is reversing one of their greatest weapons. That's why you have this giant disinformation campaign. It's going to cost more. You're going to be censored. This is all nonsense. It's all disinformation.
Net neutrality, what a poor name for that particular order or law, whatever it was.
They named it what they were getting rid of. We pretty much had it before. Obama was getting rid of it. Sorry, go ahead.
It wasn't broke before, don't fix it now. So when you hear the net neutrality being removed, of course, people have the worst thoughts, but they don't bother to read beyond the 144 or 200.
That's right. The net neutrality was the rollout legalese to back the internet control switch.
And they say crazy things like, every Google search you do is going to cost $5. My grown grandson told me that. It's complete nonsense. It's disinformation.
Yeah, and they call us. I mean, who's gullible enough to believe that? Especially, apparently, a lot of people are. But you're right. So I think now is kind of the crunch time. At least this is what I'm getting right now. It's crunch time right now. So between now and I'm going to say the first week of January, second week of January, I would anything could happen. The way they're going at this.
That's right, Doug Hagmann, totally on target. It's like they're getting a World War I or World War II. Armies are lined up. They're sharpening their bayonets. They're loading their field artillery. I mean, this is serious.
I've never seen it worse. And I've got a couple of contacts inside the Beltway, and they say, look, we just don't know what's going to happen, but we know something is.
Stay there, Doug Hagmann. People can follow all of his great work at HagmannReport.com. We'll be back, and Roger Stone's riding shotgun with us, folks. We're not hyping this. This is the reality. But if we stand against it, recognize it, raise the alarm, they may back off, or we'll at least be ready for them when they come. If we go to sleep, it's going to happen for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here, back live, broadcasting worldwide with Roger Stone, riding shotgun, former head of the Trump campaign, longtime confidant. Doug Hagmann, law enforcement trainer, one of the top private investigator firms on the East Coast with amazing connections inside the Patriot element of the FBI and more. And Doug, you were about to get to your sources inside the federal government and what they tell you is happening and how serious this is. It's now come out in the news that Eric Prince and others have private security around the president. We knew that a long time ago. And that they are expecting a rogue CIA coup at any moment. But Roger, you said you know how it's going to go down. Tell us that, then we'll go back to Doug Hagmann.
Here's what I believe. General Flynn has pled guilty because he's going to point to someone. The supposition is that he would incriminate the president and say that the president directed him to call a meeting through the Russian ambassador. I believe it is more likely that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is the one who directed General Flynn to make that call. The underlying call is perfectly legal. It's within the purview of their job. But remember, Kushner has been under hours of interrogation by the FBI, by the House committee, by the Senate committee.
And one contradiction, one half-forgotten thing is the process crime of lying to the FBI.
So, and I think that people know that Donald Trump is not going to let Ivanka's husband go to prison on some trumped-up process crime. So he is likely to pardon him. I think he held the door open to pardon Flynn, and they are hoping that the pardon of Flynn and Kushner, conceivably, would spark their revolution.
All right, let's give Doug Hagmann, who's been joining us, the floor, because he's always polite and pauses, to really flesh out his intel from his federal sources and other key areas.
Well, if I can ask both you and Roger a question, because one of the areas that I've got kind of a black hole about is what happened at the latest when Donald when Jared Kushner, I'm sorry, when Donald Trump Jr. or was it Jared Kushner?
Both of them have recently testified, but it was Donald Trump Jr.
All right. What happened during that Senate Intelligence Committee meeting that was behind closed doors? I don't have any information that I can authenticate about that, but it does, except to say it goes back to, okay, it would be to Jared Kushner and then to the president, basically using them as a means to get to the president, and of course, forcing Donald Trump's hand to pardon either one or both.
Sure, they're just trying to get to somebody that Trump cares about.
Well, and it would just bring the whole investigation one step closer to the president, because Mueller doesn't indict Kushner and then close down his investigation. He conceivably indicts Kushner for perjury, let's say, or for lying to the FBI, and then his investigation goes forward, getting closer and closer to the president. I think that's the game plan.
Okay. And that makes sense. I mean, these are investigators looking at people trying to find a crime and then show the cover-up. But there's no crime. I mean, it's crazy from what I've been able to determine. All of these, I mean, this is an abusive process. An abusive process.
I think you're absolutely right. But right now, just as Washington, is always swept with rumors, the rumor is that there's a shock and awe moment for the president, planned by Mueller, most likely right after the first of the year or just before Christmas. Many people believe that would be the indictment of Jared Kushner for some process-related crime regarding the Flynn phone call to the Russians.
Sure, and then that derails the recovery, everything, and then they're not going to just let Trump be pushed out. They're going to go after everybody, shut down the free press. They've called for massive arrest. I mean, they're going to go authoritarian is their decision now. This is a true criminal group. Other key pieces of intel your sources have given you, Doug Hagmann?
Well, this kind of circles back around to what you were talking about earlier. In conjunction with everything, there is a plan to bring back, of course, under that pretext of the Strong Cities Network, the Obama administration, UN, to announce the UN peacekeeping force in Chicago, and of course, the top cop, UN has no jurisdiction there. We're seeing this, or we're hearing this play out a little bit in the preparations made for the expectation of violence on the streets because of the embedded nature of the pro-Trump people, and they feel that they've got to put down this fake uprising or this non-existent uprising by the Trump people, when in fact that that's the pretext they're reusing to bring
and this is what the EU does when a country tries to get out. They send in bureaucrats and forces and then even military. And now we're being treated like that with Democrat-run cities that are just like sanctuary cities for illegals. They're saying, we'll go one further. We'll bring in UN troops.
What's most interesting is that the government's, or I should say, their abuse of their surveillance authority is beyond anything we have ever seen. They were using the trumped-up FISA warrants to spy on 30,000 Americans in a simple act of political espionage. That's their rationale. And this includes the spying on Trump Tower, the spying on Paul Manafort, on most likely...
It shows they're going completely for broke. They're lawless. Again, Doug, getting back to what you said briefly before the break, but you got cut off. You were saying that your sources inside federal law enforcement basically have never seen anything like it. And they were saying this is maximum danger. You were saying they agree that there's an attempt to really take over here.
Yes, I think this kind of goes exactly to what Roger Stone had said, that there's this Christmas present awaiting Donald Trump, or this present awaiting Donald Trump. And I think when they spring that, I mean, that's what everyone is kind of holding their breath about. There's a lot of water cooler talk by the Patriots in Washington and inside the Beltway about something taking place that's going to rock the foundations of this nation, and it's really an us versus them mentality. Now, that's not necessarily among the general rank and file of the FBI or even within the Department of Justice, among the, scattered about the special or the resident offices of the FBI or the U.S. attorneys. This is inside the bureaucratic areas of Washington, D.C. So this is what I'm hearing, and I'm hearing that they are preparing for some sort of event to take place. When I say event, it could be a series of events. It could be tied to the Mueller investigation. I'm not sure, because no one really, I think, really has got a good handle.
Well, don't they understand they're not going to hit everybody flat-footed if they try some hot coup, and that it's going to be spectacular? I
don't think they care. They don't care. Seriously, at this point, they feel that they're so far back behind the eight ball with the Donald Trump presidency. Again, this is what I'm hearing. These are not my words. They just feel that they've lost enough time and they're getting enough hassle where they've got to do something now. They feel the need to do something right now, if that makes sense.
Just absolute cornered rats. It makes total sense.
Something you just said, it makes perfect sense. Look at it in context. The Christmas present they have for Trump, he's expecting a letter exonerating him, and what he'll get instead, it potentially is the bogus indictment of a member of his own family. Yeah,
in Kuwait crimes.
And it's going to be that betrayal. They think he's going to blow up and get mad, fire Mueller, when the answer is let that crook and all of them sink when they actually try to sell all these lies, right as America turns against him. Doug Hagmann, thank you so much. Roger Stone, thank you so much. We've got Joel Skousen coming up.